Wow, kia ora. So good to see everyone. Wow. Welcome to the Here Now live podcast. First live podcast ever. Didn't even know we could do something like that. Awesome. So I'd love to welcome these two amazing thespians in our midst today. Pedro Ilgenfritz, who's from Brazil originally and a lecturer at Unitec and a lover of all things mask techniques, and also a surfer, and started his foray into theatre with the clown mask. That is a mask, actually. And the wonderful Jacob Rajan, whom many of you will know from The Incredible Christian's Diary. Apparently he's not ticklish, and I knew there was something weird going on behind his mask obsession. We'll come to that later on in the investigation. But Jacob Rajan and Pedro Ilgenfritz, welcome to Here Now.
Thank you.
My name is Kadambari, and I actually don't like masks. I don't even know what you paid for. That's it. We're done here. I actually don't like masks. Actually, the reason is I have an aversion to masks. When I was about 3 or 4 years old in India, my dad put on this hideous mask with, I remember, rubbery skin and coarse hair, and came right up to me and frightened the hell out of me and gave me a fever that lasted 2 or 3 days after.
Sounds like drama school.
Sounds like mask trauma to me. So really what you've come to is therapy session. We're here in therapy, just minus the couch. This is mask therapy.
We'll try and sort you out.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So what was your first recollection of, coming across a mask for the first time as when you were young? You grew up in Brazil, you grew up in Malaysia for a few years. So what was it like for you for the first time you saw a theatre mask?
It was very much, for me, it was actually a watershed moment in terms of what I wanted to do. And I'd never done any mask work, and I was painfully shy as a child, never did any performance. And, I'm the son of Indian immigrant parents, so I was supposed to be a doctor. And I did a BSc in microbiology at university, just wearing my parents down, but not actually realizing there was a humanities department at university. I was so blinkered to the sciences. And
they kept that away from you, essentially.
Yeah,
it was a secret
totally.
that you should never know.
Absolutely.
No Indian parent wants their child to be an artist.
No.
That's it.
No.
Scientist, lawyer, doctor, accountant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see the sense in that now.
Look at this full theatre knot.
But I eventually got my science degree in microbiology, which would be quite useful now. But then went to Teachers College, did a primary school teaching diploma, and I was gravitating towards the drama department there. And then my tutor, Ralph McAllister, said there's a guy up in Auckland named John Bolton who's doing a 2-week workshop in mask. I'd never touched a mask prior to that. And you had to arrive at the workshop with having made 2 masks. This moment I put a mask on, that shyness disappeared, and this new being entered the room. And I could see that not just with me, but with anyone. Anyone that put a mask on, they were gone. Kind of was a revelation to me as I watched over 2 weeks how this kind of ancient form had so much power. Power to, I'm going to get a bit spooky and cosmic here, but possess.
With me was carnival. Being Brazil, carnival. I grew up, so every February actually is this weekend in Brazil, or starting carnival. Because in Brazil never know when carnival stops and starts, because some parts of Brazil they start partying like 2 weeks before carnival and they carry on for another 2 weeks. But I remember as a child that for those 5 days, all social conventions and rules are temporarily suspended, meaning you can be whatever you want for 5 days. So you can actually change your identity, you can disguise yourself, you can put another identity, you can put a wig, you can dress up differently, you can challenge your own rules. For example, you can eat more, you can drink more, you can sleep in different times of the day, you can, for example, you can get up and, not as a child, but, as an adult, you can wake up and open a beer, having a beer, start playing, partying, and you know, so everything, the whole social life suddenly is upside down, and a lot of masks are involved in Carnival.
So how are the crime rates during those times? I mean, people are basically going around willy-nilly doing whatever they want.
During the day, it's fascinating Carnival in Brazil, because people just get dressed up and go to the streets, and actually they become the thing that you just put on. You know, and people, you know, do you want to be a pirate? Do you want to be, you know, the president of Brazil? Do you want to be a celebrity? And the people are very creative. They go very far in terms of putting on a character, but they stay on in character. And I remember this very vividly. That's perhaps the first moment. I didn't know that later I would become a mask researcher. But that was my first contact with masks. And
what was the origin of that Carnival?
Oh, the Carnival is ancient. Is every society that has very strict rules or norms, they need a moment to flip and leave the other side, or you know, they need to carnivalize. So in a way, you know, it's the world turned upside down. So, you know, Brazil as a colonial country that is very religious, you know, it's very spontaneous, very warm, very colorful. But life in Brazil is tough. People work very hard. And for 5 days, you can be a king. You can be the lord of misrule. You can just go on the streets and do what normally, for example, the policeman does not allow you, for example, lay down in the middle of the road and say things that you normally don't say and behave in a way. That's very liberating. That's it's very therapeutic in that way.
So it's a sort of thing that putting a mask on during Carnival gives you permission to be a certain somebody or a certain something that otherwise society would completely say no to.
It was so theatrical, but it was a very intense memory I had of my childhood.
How do you make that so universally appealing? It's obviously fake. There's nothing realistic about it. Everything's exaggerated. All the expressions are amplified. So how is it that we're just suckers for a good mask?
Well, it's kind of the point, because my sort of bugbear about naturalism on stage is exactly that. I know you're pretending, you know, whereas when you put a mask on, that is a compact that you have with the audience. You know, we obviously are pretending, and we can let that go. Now you enter into, and you talked about children and their ability to really go there. That's because children's imaginations are far more sophisticated than adults' imaginations. You're an adult, you're cool. You know, you need the realism and everything. You know this. You give a 2-year-old a present, they're likely to play with the wrapping paper as much as the actual present. The mask taps into that childlike quality of imagination. That's why it's so much more, for me, theatrical and nourishing to see a mask, because the audience, they don't realize it if the performer's any good, but they're doing work. They're doing imaginative work. And that is performer possessed and technically proficient, audience believing. So you have three things going on there. Me, the performer, the audience, but then this thing in between, the mask. And that's being brought to life. You've got literally a dead object, paper mache, wood, you know, rubber, plastic. It's dead. But we are all animating it. We're all bringing it to life, and that's an act of creation.
So in your work as theatre makers, how do you arrive at that character? I mean, when you write about somebody, when you're doing a character development exercise, do you kind of imagine what they look like or the personalities that they have, and therefore, based on that, design a mask? How do you arrive at what that look is?
It's a physical exploration to find the character. I mean, these characters from Krishna's Dairy, Justin, my director, and you know, we write all the plays together. He's a director, but he's also a very good mask maker, and he made the masks. And there were a number of iterations of the mask, and they were basically auditioned. So I tried them on, and we go, no, the nose is too small. Need to try a bigger nose. And it's not like, he's not psychologically, I'm not feeling the guilt. No, it's not that. It's the nose is too small. It doesn't register in the right way as the character. It's not giving him, the director, what he needs. And so we'll try a different mask on. And for me as a performer, we don't work with mirrors. I'll look at the mask, but if I'm always looking at myself externally, I'm not in it. And so it's a kind of cosmic spooky thing, but that you have to get into the trance of it, of being possessed by the mask. And then you're on your way. And then Justin can throw me provocations. This get up in the morning, make your breakfast. Nothing to do with the story as such, but you're finding out how this character lives in the world and how they move and what obsessions they have. Those kind of things then lead you to story, because character basically is the choices you make in any given situation that exposes your character.
Let's have a look at that mask again, because that's an iconic mask, really. I mean, that's museum material. 25 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been around for 25 years. And, coming to the idea of what you were saying earlier in terms of inhabiting a mask, what's interesting is you're playing 4 characters in that play, in Christian's Dairy, so you're running between one mask and another.
Who's seen Christian's Dairy here? Oh, great. Okay, great.
And for those that haven't, it's this beautiful story of an immigrant couple running a dairy, a corner shop, and up against a bunch of odds that the entire premise of the play is based on. And it's this beautiful, moving play, that one of the first I ever saw when I came to New Zealand. And, exactly what I tried to explain earlier was my aversion to masks changed when I began to watch more masked theatre like that, because
I taught you to love again, didn't I?
Jacob, what can I say? That's a whole nother podcast. Christian's Dairy, I mean, that's an iconic piece of theatre, New Zealand theatre. And that mask, I mean, you're running between 4 different characters.
Well, I knew I arrived after our first dress rehearsal. Helen Todd, our lighting designer, asked for all the actors to come on stage. And it was just me, Helen.
Me and my friends.
That's right.
These things in a bag.
So the process of finding a character, in many ways, it's preferable to not go into an analytical or discursive, but more like learning how to ride a bike, rather than let's have a discussion about how we ride a bike.
Let's break it down.
Yeah, let's do the theory of bike riding.
So if you were to pick one to show us exactly what you mean, which would you?
What do you mean?
If you had to pick one to put one on.
I can put this one. I like the red nose.
You have a long-standing history with that, don't you?
So with the red nose, your attention goes to the center of my face. So I can't really move my eyes and everything too much, otherwise it's like feeding you too much. Imagine if I do this. Look, I'm going to try to do wrong. It's unbearable to watch, isn't it? It's too much going on, so I have to really sustain this one thought, one thing. So when I move a little bit, my eyebrow looks like a big movement because the red nose amplifies my face. And yeah, I have a soft spot for this one.
Tell me about that soft spot, because I want to know the story. Why are you so fascinated with the red nose? You go back a long way with
that's the mask I spend most time with. In Brazil, I was part of a company, and the focus was the red nose. And to get to the red nose, we trained with a neutral mask. So I actually discovered the other masks much later. But my whole relationship with theater is through the red nose.
And does that red nose, I haven't done a lot of clown work, but is it so uniquely individual, the clown within you, that the red nose is? Yeah.
To a point that there is no character. So if I kind of like, I'm going to play a funny character, it does not really work. So I put the red nose, and this is me revealing myself completely to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to hide.
I've seen people do it's the tragedy of the clown, where they've got the red nose on, everybody is in hysterics laughing at what they're doing, but they don't know what they've done. They don't actually know what they've done, and it gets funnier and funnier because they just genuinely have this look on their face of, why is everybody laughing at me?
Yeah.
And that's, rather than going and trying to go for the laugh, the nightmare of clown is, I'm here and everybody is laughing at me and I don't know why, and it gets worse and worse, and the worse it gets, the more enjoyment the audience has. It's this weird, perverse kind of thing that's going on.
Is that where the slant eyebrows come from as well?
Well,
Accentuates that.
I don't know all the layers of the clown makeup and everything like that, but I've seen fantastic, like Slava, the Russian clown. You know, you look in the program and there's a doctor of clown. You know, they've studied for years and years and years to just perfect this one character, and it's extraordinary just to see something so simple, but so, like I say, it just cuts to the core of your humanity.
Of all the characters in history, you know, from Phantom of the Opera to the Iron Mask, all of these different iconic characters, masked characters in history, what would you say has really sort of captured your imagination?
I mean, I entered into it because I didn't think it was done. You know, I thought mask had been relegated to sort of street theatre and children's theatre. I never saw it as having a legitimate place in the main stage in this country anyway. And so I didn't have that many references. And so the creation of Christian's Dairy was almost a calling to make it happen. And that's how it came about. I didn't have any references as such. I don't know, Pedro, did you have like iconic mask people?
No, but for me, Charlie Chaplin is a mask work. You know, and
totally.
we start talking about then the technique of the mask, and I think we should talk about that, because not just about putting the mask on, but for example, just very quickly, you can't be moving non-stop with the mask. You have to find pauses. And you know, if you have, for example, you want something you want to express and you can use 3 gestures, that is preferable rather than having 7 gestures. So the mask has to be economical, the mask has to be precise. You have to finish one movement before you start the next one. So that creates a sort of codified language that is very close to cartoon. Like, for example, I grew up with Bugs Bunny and the Pink Panther. So that was the mask reference for me. And Daffy Duck and Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, extraordinary.
It's a clown
Buster
without the
Keaton.
red nose. And it's a mask work. You watch Charlie Chaplin, it's a master class on mask. And his hat is a mask, his mustache is a mask. So, you know, his costume, his shoes, his skin, everything there works as a mask.
His makeup. And in many ways it speaks to that humanity, rather than in some way all of his work is sort of cut through and on that level appeals to everybody. There is a certain sense of tragedy despite it being comic in many ways. So, you know, with that good and evil, good and bad duality of a mask, is there a preference? Because I think historically and culturally we've only ever, most of us, at least in our parts in the south of Asia, we grow up seeing menacing and hideous looking masks that represent demons and not so much gods, because the gods often don't have masks. The good people in plays in India often don't have masks. They might have very white makeup, very exaggerated eyebrows, but they don't really have menacing looking masks. So why is that traditionally you often see this in a lot of theatre in the south of India, that it's always the bad guys that have masks on and not, well, the good guys are just there hanging out as they are.
I don't, but when I think of the duality, the mask contains everything. So you have what we call the mask and then the counter mask. So a character like Capitano presents as very brave, but then he's a coward. Underneath, he's all things, and we are all things. And the mask captures that. It's not one thing. It can do everything. And the delight in seeing the transformation of something that's fully covering your face. And you only have the eyes and the mouth to express with this mask, but it is all things. The mask maker has cleverly drawn your focus to the eyes and the mouth, so those are clues of how to use it. But then your body has to express everything. And so a character like this, which is stock character of the priest, he does that. His presence is, I am the messenger of God on earth, and he speaks in this, but then when he asks for somebody to bring him something, he kind of overpromises and underdelivers. And that is the duality that he deals with. He's a representative of God on earth, but he can't quite do anything. He's impotent. And so that when a mask works on that level, it is touching the universal of all of us. You know, we try to be one thing and then we fail. And those are the masks that work really well for me.
The mask demands a form. The mask demands a certain level of organization of the dramatic material that is very tough and cruel on the actor, because you can't just behave with the same energy that for example, I'm sitting here talking to you. If I put the mask, and you saw that when I put the red nose, that I had to elevate, and I have to feel, so I'm focusing here, but I'm feeling my hands, my legs, so I know that my whole body is being seen and observed and being read by you. So I will elevate my level of energy. I'm not going to be constantly moving, so I will choose certain forms in my body that I call them attitudes. So the mask work becomes a dance from one attitude to another attitude, which pretty much becomes almost something choreographed. But there is not a pre-existent form, it's just a technique. So it's very interesting because in the West we don't have a form, and it's very difficult to transmit theater. But if you go to Katakali, they will tell you, this is the form. Can I do this movement here with my hand steps? No, do it exactly how it's being done for centuries and centuries and centuries. So the mask is really good in terms of acting training, because if you don't have a form, you're screwed.
Well, I mean, the stuff that I was taught at drama school was from Stanislavski. You find the truthful emotion, you bring it out. With the mask, it's exactly the opposite. So I have a big nose. I'm led by that nose. The form is dictating that I follow this big nose everywhere, and suddenly I feel curious because the nose is making me curious. It's not that I have to draw from a childhood experience of curiosity and then present that to you truthfully, because that's very hard to manufacture, that real memory night after night, but you can always follow your big nose.
So the attitude is based on the form that you actually have.
Yeah, because everything we think and everything we feel is expressed by the body, if you want it or not. That's why it's so difficult to lie, isn't it? Or to tell a story, to say something that is not true. You know, I know it's not true, but I have to really work very hard so my body does not give it away, right? So if I have a crush on one of you, for example, and you come into the room, and I have to work very hard to not let you know that I actually attracted you, and you're like, "Hi, Pedro," and I go, "Hi." So I can really hide 98%. Those 2% that I can't hide becomes impressed in the body. So this is how it goes. Everything you feel and you think is expressed by the body. Your body gives away everything. Your body can't shut up. Okay? Everything that you don't want others to see, you have to not express. So you will repress. Everything you repress becomes impressed in your body. So it becomes character. Hi, everyone. So your chest, your legs, everything. So in a way, now when you walk outside, you'll be like, wow, look at that person, look at that person. There's characters everywhere. They are walking forms, structure. This is a structure. Now you're going to create a structure that is physical that goes with this body. That's a lifelong study.
In other words, don't go to drama school. It's going to leave you traumatized pretty much.
Well, that's the beauty of, with the Stanislavski stuff, yeah, there is a danger of that trauma because you're drawing on a real emotion. With me, take the mask off, it's gone.
It's a fine line to walk. It really is. When you start embodying all of that, it can be quite a fine line to walk.
Do we have time for someone from the audience to put a mask on?
We do. Just before we wrap, I was
Is there
going to
anyone
say...
that's brave enough, wants to come here and just put the mask on and wants to try? Oh, yes!
Oh, we've got two, not one, but two. Okay.
Hello, you are?
Vinayak.
What's your name?
Vinny.
Vinny. So Vinny, turn around, so you need to be looking that way. Look at this mask. Now, without using your voice, say hello, quite loud for everyone, and really exaggerate your jaw. Now, can you bring your chest inwards? Just chest, yes. And your hands, kind of shy hands, squeezed against your body? Yeah. You see the transformation happen.
Well, that was the magic of masks, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thanks, Vinny. Thank you, Pedro, and thank you, Jacob. This is actually part of a collection that Pedro sort of became an informal custodian of a few years ago. And it's a massive collection. I wanted to know where you actually store them.
In our laundry. At home.
You can find out more about these masks on the RNZ website, actually. We've talked about it before. But we've run out of time, so thank you so much for joining us. It's been really great having all of you. Thank you. That was the wonderful Jacob Rajan of Indian Ink Theatre and Pedro Ilgenfritz, lecturer at Unitec, talking to me about their love for masked theatre. That was a live recorded conversation at Q Theatre as part of the Podfest that took place there earlier this month. I'll be back next week with a regular episode of Here Now. Today's episode was mixed by Jeremy Ansell, and my name is Kadambari Raghukumar. Thanks for listening.